All right, so there's three main methods that we are going to use to create our game pieces. So one is to keep it completely flat as slab. The other one is to build up just the surface, so to do a relief style game piece. And then the third is to create a completely three-dimensional or round game piece. Now on your brainstorming worksheet, you had a couple of different game pieces that were sketched to size. So this was the last page of your brainstorming worksheet. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut out just on the overall edge of my game piece. I drew like a little emoji right here. I'm going to cut it out on the perimeter and show you how to transfer it onto your clay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I would cut it out of my brainstorming worksheet. I do not have a brainstorming worksheet, but I'll cut it out on the overall line. Okay, now what I can do at this point to do the simplest of my game pieces, to keep it kind of basically a flat slab, is I'm going to take this, make sure I'm on a tray, using my needle tool, I'm going to sketch it out onto the clay. Okay. And what I'm going to do with my needle tool is I'm going to press it all the way to the surface of the styrofoam. Okay. And so just random side note, clay expectations apply to this, and I can pop it out. Okay. I want to be mindful of how I trace it onto the clay because I can actually fit about 3 of these on here. Okay. You're going to be making between, 4 and 5 of each type of game piece, either the X piece or the O piece. Okay. So I would continue to trace these on here. Okay. But for time purposes, let me share with you what this looks like. So I'm going to pop it out of the clay and I'm going to transfer my design onto here. So I've got this cut out. I can do this in a couple different ways, but one way is to just use, again, just the very tip of the needle tool and do surface level holes over any of the pencil lines in my design. I can also freehand this directly onto here, so I'll show you what it looks like to freehand just that eye and eyebrow. Again, just surface level small pokes right on the pencil lines, and you can see how it transfers that detail onto there. Okay. At this point, I would use the needle tool to connect the dots. Again, just surface level. We don't want to cut all the way through our clay. And you can see how that makes that design kind of go in there. Now to freehand something, that just means you're going to draw it directly on the clay. Again, surface level. Okay, so I can look at my design and freehand it. Boom, done. So this is the example of the first type of game piece, keeping it largely as slab, okay, and just etching or scratching the designs onto the surface. Okay, now the second one is to build up the surface, okay, to make the surface three-dimensional. Okay, so I'm going to cut out the second one just to show you what it is going to look like. Okay. Let's say I want to sculpt the surface of this game piece and make the eyes, eyebrows, and the mouth three-dimensional. Okay, at this point I can cut out of the clay these little pieces for the eyes, eyebrows. Let me zoom you all in. There we go. Something like that. Cut out a little mouthpiece. Looks like so. Aw, isn't that so cute? Okay, I could draw the eyebrows on, etc. At this point in time, though, I cut the extra pieces out to build up the surface, but they're not attached properly. Remember, I have to score, slip, and smooth them together to make sure that the details bake to the game piece backing. Okay, so the first part is to score it. I'm going to use my needle tool to scratch it, add a smidge of water. Okay, and then to pull clay over the seam. Okay, I'll share with you what that looks like using the small side of the gray clay tool. If I just scratch it and add water, nothing is really going to happen. It's still not going to survive a baking. It's not going to bake together. Okay, so right now this is not enough. Here's what I was talking about. So using the gray clay tool, I can pull clay over the seam. So right now, see how I can see where one piece of clay stops and starts? I'm going to take the small side of this tool and I'm going to pull clay over that seam. all the way around, or as far all the way around as I can. This will ensure that this bakes together. Okay, so right now this one eye is attached on. It's looking good. Do the other eye. Again, all the way around. And then I would also do the mouth, which I do have to square slip and smooth that on. So scratch, scratch, add a little bit of water, okay, and pull the clay over that seam. Okay, right now it's not attached. I've got to do that last part of the process and pull that clay over the seam. Okay, so make this small line go away all the way around. All right, so this is what's called a relief style game piece because I've built up just the one surface of the game piece. All right, and my last part of the process would be to craft this a little bit better, right? So smooth out some of those bite marks, smooth out the surface, use the best clay tool I have, which is my finger, to make it a little bit better sculpted. Okay, now the last game piece that I could potentially make, okay, let's put this one aside for now, is a game piece that's entirely three-dimensional. So what I can do is just break off a piece of clay. Let's say I want to make this emoji 3D. I can take this clay and, okay, roll it in my hands, roll it on the surface of the table, okay, something that looks like this. Okay. Smooth it out with a little bit of water in my finger. Okay, and scratch those designs into the surface. Okay, using the needle tool, I can also use my gray clay tool. Okay, so something that looks like that. Let's say I want to make another, I want to make him have like a little hat or something. Okay, I can score, slip, and smooth that onto, any pieces just have to be scored, slipped, and smoothed onto this little guy. Okay, so I'm forming it in my hands, and then I will score, slip, and smooth it on. Okay, so scratch, add both surfaces, add a little bit of water. Okay, and then last part of the process is pulling that clay over the seam. You could potentially do your X pieces as one type, like maybe the relief style, and then do your, you know, your O pieces 3D. That's more than fine. You can do them both 3D. You can do them all flat. Okay. This doesn't really look like a hat, but you get my point. I would probably have to add like a little rim all the way around it or something like that to make it look cute. Yeah, something like that. Square, slip, and smooth it on. Okay, but you get the general idea. Okay, so those are your three methods. You can either do this, this, or this. Okay, keep in mind that your pinch pots and also your coils are fair game for sculpting as well.